we've got a transgender golfer who is making her way through the LPGA qualifying process and has moved closer to the possibility of acquiring an LPGA card to become a full-fledged member of the LPGA Tour. Hailey Davidson is her name, and this individual is a pretty good golfer and is in the mix, could be the first transgender member of the LPGA Tour. Your thoughts?
Pretty good golfer, huh? But not good enough to golf against guys.
Well, presumably not.
Not
at the highest, not at the highest levels.
Yeah, interesting how that works, huh?
Well, here's the thing about it. I believe that everybody should be treated with respect and
consideration, 100%.
And consideration. I'm in favor of unisex restrooms. I'm in favor of I'll use your pronouns. You know, I mean, I'm not going to call somebody, you know, Falcon or whatever, you know, some of the pronouns that are just bizarre. But if you're talking like normal pronouns, I'll use your pronouns. I absolutely will treat you with respect. I've had transgender students through the years, and you know, I think everybody should have a right to live their life in peace and in a way that makes them happy. And I'm certainly happy to respect those things. I really
and don't forget, and don't forget, honestly, Ricky, don't forget kindness. Like kindness and respect and consideration. Like, absolutely. Like, what kind of human being wouldn't do that? Like, you're an awful human being if you don't treat not just people that are transgender, literally everybody. I don't care what your race, your religion. It doesn't matter what you are. Literally just treat everybody with kindness and consideration, and we're good.
Yeah, well, we're not, though, because there are those that say that if you don't believe that transgender athletes deserve to be able to compete, and let's face it, it's always transgender women, right? We never have this issue, and I think this kind of proves the point of those of us that are concerned about competitive balance and competitive fairness. It's never someone who transitions from female to male that we worry about because they never show up to compete, right? It's always male to female transgender athletes that this becomes an issue with. And I think for the people who say that, well, it doesn't really matter and you're prejudiced or bigoted in some way if you think that it's not a fair competitive situation, just from a common sense perspective, shouldn't we ask ourselves why literally 100% of the time, maybe there's somebody somewhere, I won't say 100% of the time, but virtually 100% of the time, it is always male to female transitions that cause athletes to suddenly pop up as world class, whereas female to male athletes, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't happened. So there are there are differences physically between males and females in size, muscle mass, things like that. And obviously there are parameters that are out there for levels of testosterone and all of that. And there's a process you go through. And so I'm not saying like, take this golfer, Hailey Davidson, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure that Hailey Davidson probably does not possess the same raw strength that she had when she was a male. I'm sure the treatments that she has received have made her more feminine and have reduced some of the physical male advantages that she was born with. But I think it's pretty clear that it doesn't remove all of them. And so, is it fair? to the women on the LPGA tour. Now, I don't think this particular golfer is skilled enough, probably, that she's going to be a threat to the Nelly Kordas and Rose Zangs and Lydia Ko's of the world. This is probably going to be a very mediocre LPGA player if she makes the tour. But this is someone who probably didn't have a hope in hell of ever making the PGA Tour prior to transitioning. So,
well, she's also taken a spot from somebody that was born with a vagina and tried to play golf their entire life, and now they're going to be on the outside looking in because somebody that was born with a penis decided that they wanted to, play professional golf.
I just don't understand. I just don't understand why this is controversial. I don't understand why it's controversial because it's human biology 101. You can't just deny that there are physical differences between someone who is born male with XY chromosomes and someone who is born female with XX chromosomes. Yeah, you can mute it. You can change hormone therapies and things like that, which are going to decrease those differences, but I don't think it erases them. And Nelly Korda, who is the number one ranked female golfer in the world, I think she won 6 tournaments in a row earlier this year, or 5 tournaments in a row. She's an incredible player. But if Nelly Korda transitioned into being a man next year, I think that it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that the number one ranked female player in the world, were she to transition, would be able to qualify for the PGA Tour. So why is it always a one-sided thing? If there aren't inherent advantages that you just can't get around, if there was a way for these athletes to transition and for us to really see that, like, hey, it doesn't seem to make any difference. This person was the 150th ranked, person in their sport as a male, and now they're about the 150th best female. If that was how it actually worked, I would say, well, have at it. Great. But that's not how it works. We saw Leah Thomas, who was ranked somewhere well down in the 100s as a male swimmer, transitioned and then became fucking absolutely dominant at the NCAA level. I think to pretend that there's not a biological reason for that is, I'm sorry, like, it's just not rooted anywhere in the basis of reality, Ron.
Well, there's a video that's, you can easily Google or hop on YouTube, where Serena Williams is on David Letterman, I believe, and he asks, "Oh, could a guy beat you, or the 100th rate or the 700?" She's like, yeah. "Oh my gosh, no! Like, there's no way I could beat them. Like,
Andy Murray,
0 chance I can beat them."
She said Andy Murray would beat her 6-0, 6-0 in about 10 minutes, and she's the greatest female tennis player ever.
Correct.
She's the greatest. She's the greatest female tennis player ever. She's an incredible champion. And she herself said that. Now, that's before it became politically incorrect to say that. But she knows it to be true. You put Serena Williams out there against the 100th ranked man in her prime, and he just has inherent physical advantages. It doesn't make her any less great.
Oh my gosh,
it doesn't make him any less mediocre as a male tennis player. The 100th ranked player is not mediocre in the context of the highest levels of professional tennis. He's mediocre, but there's differences. There just are. Mike Tyson, if Mike Tyson, when he was 23 years old, decided that he was a female, we've seen that meme circulating around, but imagine if it was really true. If a 23-year-old Mike Tyson decided that he had been born in the wrong body, it would have been criminal to put him in the ring with any woman. Criminal. You would be licensing murder, potentially. But if you follow sort of this modern ethos of the people who think that there's nothing to see here, that's what would happen. I want you to tell me, you were telling me before the show about a pretty interesting Babe Ruth memorabilia purchase. We've only got a couple of minutes, but hit me with that.
Well, I mean, this is back to, was it Friday's show? We talked about the nerd that bought the Star Wars figurine. I think we did that on Friday. He spent $1.3 million. Somebody, you ready? Okay, so the Babe Ruth jersey that he called his shot in, it sold in 2005 for under $1 million. Like, I think it was $940,000. Now, at that time, there was no verification that it was the jersey that he wore during the call the shot game. Well, it's now been verified that same jersey has that's what he was wearing. Are you $24 million, Ricky? Somebody paid $24 million for that
That's
jersey.
the called shot jersey right there. We saw it like there at Wrigley Field where it happened in, I think it was game 3 of the 1932 World Series at Wrigley Field. $24.2 million. The jersey that the man hit maybe the most famous home run, arguably the most famous home run in baseball history in. That's wild. Imagine having $24.2 million you could just throw. I bid over $400 on a Mickey Mantle card last week. I didn't win it, and I was sweating bullets.
You're probably hoping you wouldn't win, right? You were hoping you wouldn't win.
I was half disappointed and half relieved. Yeah. It was a little bit of both, but $24 million. And you know what? 20 years from now, that person probably will be able to sell it for a hefty profit. Poll of the day. Let's harken back. The poll of the day. Autumn is today's big winner, as it has established a commanding enough lead over Van Halen that I am going to now, OutKick is now going to project that Autumn is the winner officially of today's poll of the day. Van Halen second place, Wrigley Field a respectable third. It got the vote of producer Tim, so that's always worth something. And Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, finds out that, well, that's not as good as writing, whoa, 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 Janie's crying, I guess, is basically what we've learned today. That is ultimately a greater composition, according to the public, than the Declaration of Independence. So Thomas Jefferson, a loser today. And I feel a little bit bad about that, Ron, but I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
It definitely is. I mean, Autumn's pretty hard to beat, but Van Halen coming in just 4 percentage points behind is pretty impressive.
What's the public have to say about this? You know that the Super 70 Sports followers are always opinionated, Ronnie. And, let's see. We've got Autumn is college football and playoff baseball. There's no other answer. You could have, you wouldn't have said that because you don't care about baseball. But Jefferson losing is exactly why this country is doomed, says Give Me Some Truth. And looks like he's going to wash that thought down with a beverage. Tough day for Jefferson. Yesterday was a tough day, or Friday rather, was a tough day for the Jeffersons. Ron, hasn't been a good series of days. George Jefferson took a beating on Friday, and now Thomas Jefferson taking one today. How about Wrigley Field in Autumn? Yeah, doesn't happen often for the Cubs, but I would take that. It's Autumn, and everything else falls into place after that. Pumpkin spice can go to hell. Well, thank you for that, Nick. We need apple crisp, bratwurst, and a football to throw around, you sweet bastards. And you are goddamn right, my friend. You're goddamn right.
We actually had bratwurst for dinner last night.
Did you now?
Oh,
the
so
bratwurst
good.
always my favorite of the racing sausages at Milwaukee Brewers games. You could have Autumn, then the names of my wife and kids, and I'd pick Autumn. This guy's literally picking Autumn over his own family. My God, might be time to get into counseling there, SL. Van Halen wrote Panama. Tom Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, arguably the first metal song ever. I love Van Halen, but riding with TJ here. So finally, somebody stepping up. Rex Crum, of course, the great Rex Crum. I'm not surprised that he has a strong take, Ron. And if it was good enough for Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it should be good enough for a vote here. And that of course, would be Wrigley Field. And Chris Orlando says, I wish I could have the best of both worlds by picking Wrigley Field and Van Halen, but I'm still on top of the world with the David Lee Roth era. Yeah. I've been very clear during my entire life. David Lee Roth era is clearly superior to the Van Hagar era. Ron, is that something that you and I can agree on?
No, I don't like Van Halen, so no opinion.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, I'm so disgusted with you right now. You don't like baseball or Van Halen?
Nope. I don't.
Do you just not like things that are good? You don't like Van Halen?
I like you, Ricky.
Well, Jesus, I don't know. It's like I don't even feel good about that anymore because your judgment's no fucking good. It doesn't even matter if you like me.
Turn Walter around, please.
Oh, all right. You can look again, Walter. I didn't know that he was going to have to deal. I wouldn't have brought Walter to school today if I'd known that he was going to have to relive a traumatic experience. That's not good. Ron, I had a nice little tweet yesterday that I was pleased with, that I thought was one of my better ones in recent days, which I asked people the question, if you walked into an arcade, classic arcade, vintage arcade, that had all the games that you like, so you're not limited by the selection, and you had $1, how would you spend your $1? Every game's a quarter. You got $1. What would you do? And so there you see the tweet. And I said that for me, I would pick Galaga, which if you know me, you understand that. I have a Galaga machine, by the way. I've only said that 3,000 times. I think that's the main reason I have it, is just so I can troll for people thinking I'm cool. Track and Field, which is the photo there that I opted to use, which is one of my very, very, very favorite games, and I think one of the most underrated. Pole Position, and another one that I think is underrated, and I believe that there are quite a few people who agree with me on this matter. Burger Time is another fun game. I have Burger Time on my Galaga machine. I have a Galaga machine, in case anybody didn't realize that. Steve Dallas says there used to be an Indiana Jones Temple of Doom arcade game, and I still hear Mola Ram. Is that how you say that? I don't fucking know. You want to know a secret about me, Ron?
Tell me.
I've never seen Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom all the way through. Maybe I'm a communist too.
I haven't either.
Maybe I'm a commie too. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Frogger, and Centipede. That's pretty solid right there. Pole Position, Scramble. I don't remember Scramble off the top of my head. Donkey Kong and Miss Pac-Man, possibly sub in Dig Dug. A little bit of a hedge there by Hold the Wire, which is decent. You can't really go wrong. I was looking at some of the comments the other day, and people had some good choices. With 80s arcade games, it's hard to waste $1 in a classic 80s arcade, Ron. What would you pick? Or are you going to tell me that you don't like video games either, you motherfucker?
So my favorite video game of all time, and I don't know if it started in the 80s. So I'm going to say it anyway. But my favorite of all time is not even close, is Golden Tee. Like, I love Golden Tee. Like,
well, Golden Tee is not a classic arcade game.
That's why I prefaced it.
It didn't come along until the 90s. Ron.
Okay.
They should have told you that in the Soviet Union.
So if we're going
I'll
80s,
stop. I've made too many Soviet Union jokes.
No. If we're going to go 80s, like George Costanza, loved Frogger, loved me some Frogger, and I liked Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
So Frogger, Space Invaders, Pac-Man. Do you have a fourth?
It's pole position. I do remember there was. Yeah. I remember there was a driving one that I really liked, so I'm assuming it was pole position. I don't remember the name.
Prepare to qualify. The three words that. Yeah. Prepare to qualify. I like to go to vintage arcades sometimes. We've got some up here.
Yeah, in Chicago, you do.
In the suburbs. Yeah. Once in a while, I'll go in. They'll give you a wristband. And so it's like $15 or something like that. They give you a wristband. You can leave and come back or whatever, but you can play for the whole day for like $15. I mean, maybe 20 now. That was pre-COVID prices. I don't know. But for a reasonable amount, it's not worth it if you're just wanting to go in there for 30 minutes. But all the games are just set to play. So you don't need quarters or anything. You just walk around in there and play them. But not a terrible way to spend an afternoon, Ron.
No, you should do it sometime.
Going into an arcade. Yeah, it's pretty good. I do like some of the 90s games that came along later, though. NBA Jam and NFL Blitz. Those are pretty good.
Did you like Golden Tee?
So, oh, yeah. Yeah, I love Golden Tee.
I mean, it was just so good. So you could either do the thumbs where you go like that, or if you really, right? So
yeah,
like, you two options.
Yeah, I didn't use the thumbs. I'm just gonna go. Yeah, you just got to go. You got to give it one of those as you indicated, Ron. I'm not that good at it, but I'm okay.
I'm trying to channel my inner Armando and just be more like.
Yeah, speaking of pole position, Ron, did you see the preacher at Daytona? The guy who gave the invocation before the NASCAR race and got all viral with that shit?
You mean the dude with a great name, Mac Vendome? I mean, that's a fantastic name.
I believe it was.
I guess my question is does he getting some NIL money from the fine folks at Shake and Bake? Because he mentioned Shake and Bake a lot, so I'm thinking maybe he had a little NIL deal with Shake and Bake.
Well, maybe he did. That, of course, a callback to Ricky Bobby and the great Cal Naughton. Right. Was it Cal Naughton Jr. or was he just Cal Naughton? I want to call him Cal Naughton Jr. I can't remember at this point. But John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly is so fucking funny. I love me some John C. Reilly. Ron, I never finished the second season of Winning Time. I need to do that.
Are you a communist?
Well, I'm calling myself into question now. I've been pointing the communist finger, but maybe that's exactly what a communist would do, Ron, is accuse other people of being communists to throw people off the sin of their own pinkness.
I think you were so turned off by the guy that played Dr. J in the first season that you're just like, I'm not finishing this thing. Because all the other, like Magic was amazing. Kareem was amazing. And then they pull in this dude. They're like, we just need a black dude. And they're like, okay, you're Dr. J. And he looked nothing like him. It was hilarious.
It absolutely. The guy that's playing Dr. J is like 50. He's like 57 years old. Looks nothing like him. What the fuck was going on? I think we've got the Shake and Bake preacher here. Let's go to the videotape on this and see this guy.
Dear God, as we are gathered here this evening to celebrate these gentlemen, shake and bake like Ricky Bobby, help us to remember we also have a race that we must run. Help us to also shake and bake. Stress, some days depressed. Help us to remember we are blessed, we must shake and bake. Heartache, heartbreak, you have used it all for our breakthrough. Help us to shake and bake. And on the days where it's hard to get up out of bed, help us to remember those famous and faithful words. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing for your glory, by your grace. In Jesus' name I pray, and all of God's children said, amen.
In Jesus' name, shake and bake. Hey, look, this guy got his chance on the national stage, and he went for it. Is basically what happened.
Yeah.
So I guess good for him. We're talking about him.
I think I alluded to it in another show, but man, I hope at some point you get big enough that you get to do a college or a college or a high school, probably a college graduation speaker. Oh, I can't imagine the things that you're going to say. It'll be amazing.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that you were hoping that I would get big enough that they would bring me in to give the invocation somewhere. And I was like, although I am an ordained minister. You know that, right?
Back of a Rolling Stone magazine?
Basically, yeah. I'm an ordained minister in the Universal Life Church, which basically all you have to do is just sign yourself up. But it's somehow legally binding. It counts, even though it's just like a joke. They tell you on the website, like basically you're on the honor system. Don't ordain your pet. Stuff like that. It's kind of like Columbia House. You just go in there and sign up, and it's like magic. You're ordained. Ron, did you see where Scott Service got fired and he found out on fucking Twitter? X?
Yeah, he said he had a like, I guess it was there was a notification to whatever account he was following. Maybe it was the Mariners, I don't know. And he just looks down at his phone. He's like, "Oh, okay, I don't have a job anymore." Not a fun way to find out that you don't have a job anymore. Although he does have a contract, so it's not like me when I got fired from my shitty jobs when I was a kid. Like that was it, no more income. He's still getting paid whatever his contract was, so I don't feel too bad for Scott.
Yeah, that's a rough way to find out that you've been fired, though. It really is. But you're right. I mean, the guy's wealthier than 99+% of the population. I'm sure he can okay. Dry any tears with cash money. Have you ever been fired from anything?
Just because I sucked at what I did, or probably just, what's a insubordination? I don't know. Yeah, I've never had a weird like firing. I've just been fired.
Well, I mean, you can't just say that you've been fired for insubordination and not elaborate.
Oh, I don't know. I was a kid.
Who were you insubordinate to?
Oh, I just mean I'm a kid and I'm a dumbass, and maybe I just didn't show up for work or something. I don't know. But you promised me something. When this is not a if. This is a when. When you fire me from this show, promise you'll tweet it and you won't call me.
Well, if you ever get fired from this show, I'm sure it will be for insubordination. That's almost a foregone conclusion.
Oh, I figured it would be for something I said.
Why are you hedging? Why are you saying like maybe I got fired for insubordination? I was a kid. I don't know because I had 50 jobs when I was. Are you having memory problems? This isn't a deposition.
No, I had 50 jobs. I'm just assuming. I don't know.
You don't know if you got fired or not?
No, I said I don't remember the reasons.
Oh, how many times have you been fired? You said reasons? How many times have you been shit canned, dude?
I don't know. Maybe not many. I don't know.
Maybe not
what about
many.
You? What about you?
This is all. Well, how can you come to me and expect an answer when you're just
your show.
You're dodging the question. You're dodging the question. You're just dodging, man. You're like Armando on the roller coaster, just dodging. I got fired one time because, I'll answer the fucking question. I won't be a politician like you're being. Answer the question, Kamala. How did you get fired?
What
I
has
got fired
been
for
will be, and because of what has
unburdened
been, there will
unburdened
be
by a paycheck. Yes. Unburdened by the paychecks that were, I looked to the unemployment line that can be. I got fired from a county newspaper. I was an editor, proofreader for a local county newspaper, and I also went and covered local meetings. Like I would cover like town council meetings and exciting shit like that. And I didn't make it to one. I cleared it in advance. I called and said that I wasn't going to be there and was told okay. And then my boss called me a couple of days later and fired me because I wasn't there. So, but he was an asshole. That guy.
Was this like
nobody
how old
liked
were you?
him.
How old were you?
I was like 24.
So that was your first media firing.
Oh, wow. Wow. That was my first only media firing. But yeah, he canned me and it was kind of fucked up, but he had a column in the paper called My 2 Cents that was overpriced. AC Wilson Jr., if you're out there listening to this, not a fan. I don't know if he's still, I don't know if he's, look at me now. Who's a big shot now, pal? Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything of him or from him for years and years and years and years, but he wore he had a dollar bill folded up to the point where it would, just where you could see the "In God We Trust," and he would wear it as a lapel pin. So, like right away, who's really the asshole here? Who's really the asshole?
That's just weird. Speaking of weird, speaking of weird, my boy Jim Harbaugh acted like Justin Herbert was one of the miners in Chile or baby Jessica. Justin Herbert was in an elevator for like 2 hours. It got stuck, and Harbaugh comes out.
That's a fear of mine.
Yeah, sure, but it was 2 hours.
Well, they had to pull him out of the top of the fucking elevator, man. That would have been fucking terrible. I'm not going to minimize the trauma of this. Like my entire life, I've been waiting for it, dude. I'm 53 years old. I've been waiting for it for a long time, that sooner or later my luck's going to run out and I'm going to get stuck in a fucking elevator.
Are you afraid of the stuck, or are you afraid like the cable's going to snap and you're just going to?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I think it would be a little claustrophobic if you were stuck for any period of time. I'm not really worried about free falling, but like, I don't want to like have to be. They had to be rescued through the top of the elevator. They pulled them up and then moved them into some sort of other elevator. I think that would have been kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't have liked that. So I'm not going to shit on the emergency level of this crisis.
Have you ever seen that prank? There's a series of prank videos out there where they build this like almost it's like on a sound stage, and these people go into an elevator, and then the elevator's supposed to go up, and they think they're just in an elevator in a building, and they have this screen in front of it that makes it look like it's going 1,000 miles an hour, and then it breaks through the ceiling, and now you're seeing outside, and these people lose their absolute shit. It's so hilarious, and I was just thinking about you being on there.
Oh my God! Like, I don't know the circumstances of how that happened or whatever, but like, if I didn't sign up for something like that and somebody did that to me, there would be some kung fu fucking fighting going on.
Yeah, I'll send you. I'll find a link. I'll find a link and send it to you after the show.
Send me a link, because I would fight a motherfucker if that happened to me. Like, you don't do that to me. I mean, seriously. I mean, we are now fighting.
Would you taste the power of Ricky Cobb?
Somebody would taste the power of Ricky Cobb. Yeah, they absolutely, oh boy. Hey, listen, if you put me in a ring with a bantamweight after I've gone through a traumatic experience like that, I might actually really have a chance. Because you know how they say people get superhuman strength when they're in a crisis situation or whatever? Yep. Yeah. I don't think the world bantamweight champion would want a piece of me in the immediate aftermath of me thinking that I was going to die. I'd be a very dangerous man for about 90 seconds. You know, if he got past that, he'd be okay. What else have we got going on? What the fuck else is going on, Ron?
Rod Carew.
Rod
Carew, man.
Rod Carew, my friend of the Super 70 Sports. Yeah. Who was on the old Super 70 Sports show that you and I used to co-host from time to time before we landed here. Rod Carew, a terrific guy, 7-time American League batting champion. What is in the news with Rod Carew, Ron?
He's a citizen. Finally, 78 years old. He's a U.S. citizen. Is there any, look at that. That's awesome. I'm so happy for him. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm so happy for him. How did this not happen sooner? Do we know?
I mean, I assume he just didn't go through the testing process that you have to do. It's just, you don't get anointed. It's not like he's a knight in England. Like, you got to go through a process.
I think if you win multiple batting championships, you should just have American citizenship bestowed upon you. Doesn't that seem fair? This motherfucker he was the 7-time batting champion of the American League. And he wasn't an American citizen until now? This should have happened years ago.
And he's got one of the greatest lines ever in a Beastie Boys song.
When I'm elected president, winning the American League batting championship will result in immediate American citizenship. I'll push that through just like in the first 100 days of my presidency. And he is, you're right. That is one of the all-time great lyrics that got mad hits like Rod Carew. He signs that. I've seen him sign that inscription on autographs before, Ron.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. It's right up there. Another one is I've got more hits than Sadaharu O.
Yep.
So let's shout out that one as well. So yeah, congratulations to Rod Carew. You know, his name is Rodney Cline Carew, and he was named after, he was born in the Panama Canal Zone. He's from Panama. And as I've always said many times, and this is an opportunity for me to say it again, Panama, they still haven't changed their national anthem to Panama by Van Halen. And I feel like that's just a terrible mistake. Like, how excited would you be if Panama won a medal at the Olympics and then Panama by Van Halen starts playing?
You know what? I might be a Van Halen fan at that point if that ever happens.
You know, some motherfucker wins gold in something, and then it's just like, Panama.
That would be pretty good.
The best national. Why they haven't made that their national anthem, there's no good excuse for it. But anyway, Rod Carew was born in the Panama Canal Zone, and he was born on a train, Ron. How about that?
Well, I was expecting to hear he's born on a boat since it was the Panama Canal Zone, and then you just come out of left field with a train.
Boom, baby. And he was delivered by Dr. Rodney Cline. And his mother named him Rodney Cline Carew in appreciation of the doctor who brought him into this world in that what I'm sure was a difficult situation when you are about ready to give birth on a fucking train, Ron.
So it was probably one of those situations like you see in the movies where somebody's like, is there a doctor on the train? Is there a doctor on the train? Is there a doctor on the train? And Dr. Rodney Cline said, I'm a doctor.
Yeah. He's like, what up? I'm a doctor. And then he delivered one of the greatest hitters, career 328 hitter, Rod Carew.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.